Right, I want to introduce our panelists this morning. Of course, you saw them as we were beginning the program, and we, of course, will discuss about a raft of issues that is happening in the country and elsewhere, looking at the Iran deal, looking at the Las Vegas shooting as well, and also police brutality here in the country as well. Allow me to introduce to you this morning Professor Noah Midamba, who's an expert on defense and foreign policy. Also, we do have with us His Excellency, Ambassador of Islamic Republic of Iran to the Republic of Kenya. This is Dr. Hadi Farajvand, who will be telling us more about, of course, a raft of issues as far as gun control is concerned and illegal arms, where he's an expert. We're also joined this morning with Dr. Mustafa Yusuf, who is a conflict resolution and national security expert. Also, we do have with us Dr. Oliver Kisaka, who is a chaplain and also a lecturer at the Africa International University. Also, we do have with us Captain Werunga Simiyu, who is the CEO of African Security Center for Security and Strategic Studies, and he's joining us this morning, of course, to give and lend his voice on a raft of issues as well. Good morning, gentlemen. Right, let's begin here in the country and what we saw. Very briefly, as far as police brutality is concerned, we saw those clips, and of course we'll be running them momentarily for you to see what was really happening at the University of Nairobi. We want to hear from our experts. As far as police brutality is concerned, we have a police service or a police force. Let's begin with you, Professor Noah Midamba, because now this is actually within your remit as the Vice Chancellor of KCA University. What is happening to our students? What is happening to the police? So there's no interface between, or a good correlation between police and the students as well.
Debarl, I've been in United States responsible, was Vice President responsible for students and also enrollment management in a very large university. What the students are people. And what students need is communication. Students have issues, they have concerns, someone needs to talk to them. And I think what happened, because there is conflicting issues, whether they were fake pictures or not, it doesn't matter what happened.
Yes.
They go in and brutalize students,
yes,
that were innocent, that were not involved with whatever act that were appropriated. And to have them goose-stepping like Guantanamo, like prisoners in Guantanamo, is wrong. And then consequently, of course, end up closing the university, which of course impact the curriculum and everything. People need to be talking to the student. We don't need a brute force to go in there. We are intelligent enough right now that we need to be able to take pictures of those people who are throwing stones or, leading, and call actions. We can do that very intelligently without engaging in the kind of brute force that I've seen, which is exactly what the colonial government did before our independence.
All right, let's hear from Dr. Hadi. Police brutality meted out in students. I think you've seen this. You now as a security expert as well. What really comes up to your mind?
Good morning. Thank you for inviting me to this program. I see a few pictures of that, but to be frank, I couldn't see the whole aspect of the issue. On yesterday, exactly, I was going somewhere, passing to the university. I saw that the road was closed. Then I turned back and choose to go from other way. But the only thing that I can say that it's very important for Kenya at this stage to run the end of process of the election in very peacefully and calm manner, because anything happens in Kenya affects Kenya outside. A lot of investors, businessmen, delegations, they look for the peacefully election, calm election in Kenya in order to come to continue or establish new link with Kenya. As far as we are concerned, for instance, we have several business delegations waiting for the end of election to be, we hope that it will be very peacefully and fair, to come to Kenya to either establish business in Kenya or establish contact with their counterparts in Kenya. Therefore, I think in this situation, it is very important for all sides in Kenya to understand, and I'm sure they understand, that everything has to be done at the end of this process very peacefully and honestly and in a very cooperative manner and understanding.
And of course, this has adversely affected, you know, some of the foreign direct investors, as you're saying right now. But also, we've been having calls from both sides of the divide, the NASA side and also the Jubilee side. They're saying the international community is meddling with our affairs. They should keep off. What is your estimate as far as also the envoys were concerned when they were voicing their, of course, their concern over what is happening in the country currently?
As far as we are concerned, the issue of election is an internal affair of Kenya.
Yes.
As the government of Islamic Republic of Iran, we do not interfere in this process. And I think that every country in the world has to respect the sovereignty and integrity of the Kenya and respect the decision of people, whatsoever it will be. But I think there is enough wisdom in the Kenya. I mean, the election, first phase of election clearly showed that both parties in Kenya are very keen to go and play based on rule of law. And I think what happened in the first part of election was a big credibility and credit for Kenya in the international arena. And therefore, we hope that this credibility remains as it is and increased in the rest of the process. As I said, we hope that our businessmen hoping that this election will go peacefully, and they are very keen to come to market in Kenya, to establish business in Kenya, or to establish trade link with their partners. Everything is actually depends on what's going on at the rest of this process.
Thank you. Let's hear from Dr. Oliver Kisaka.
Yeah, Debarl, it's very painful to watch students being clobbered the way they were beaten, especially in their halls of residence. It's true that it's observable that we may not know all the details of everything surrounding the situation. But I think for me, the sad thing is I haven't yet seen a demonstration in the Kenyan police that they are committed to making policing attractive. You know, there are times you look at one or two countries and you see the way police operate, the way they walk around, the way you see people who are confident, people who are sure of their profession. It's not a profession that you would say somebody has gone to by default. It's something to be proud of. And I haven't seen an attitude in the Kenyan police that shows that they are committed to making the profession an admirable profession. And so when you have helpless 18 to 22-year-olds lying down on the ground, you have all these brute forces and boots, and all you can do is clobber them as if you are killing a snake. It's wrong. And so I don't know what grievances they had against the students, but my appeal this morning to the police service and to all people who are concerned is we haven't got it right in terms of the general philosophy of policing in this country. And so you will see that they come across as being partisan. They come across as operating on the orders of particular corners, whose end is not very clear at this point. So I am appealing to, can we think in terms of what we want ourselves to be as a profession, because I don't think we yet have got it right.
Let's say from Dr. Mustafa, of course, even the clips that we showed, we were a bit editorial with them because some of them were very gross and graphic that we could not even relay them to the public. You know, they were beaten black and blue, you know, they were bleeding copiously. This is not how actually they should be treated. What is your view?
Yeah, Debarl, I want to echo my colleague's sentiments on what happened at the university. That these are our children, these are our brothers and sisters, and father, mother at home looking at this kind of pictures would not be happy and would really feel concerned about their children at the university. The second point here that I would like to say is we're still a long way in this country when it comes to policing. I think there is need for the police will need to really look at those pictures and tell us what actually happened at the university. I understand IPOA is going through those clips and will tell us whether they were genuine or not. We understand that some of those clips we've been told are not a fake, so to speak, but irrespective of the fakeness, those are Kenyans, I think, that were being clobbered in the manner that they were being clobbered. It is not right. The third point, Debarl, here is an appeal to the Kenyan community in general and students in particular. There is no point to throw stones. There is no point to demonstrate violently. Now, when students do demonstrate violently and throwing stones at cars on State House Road, they then attract the wrath of the police in a manner that we've seen that is violent. And of course, the way the police responded can never be justified. Kenyans will need to know how to and learn how to peacefully picket. We've seen in Spain, they were voting for their own a secession, actually, and it was largely peaceful until, of course, there were skirmishes here and there. But if that was Kenya, that magnitude of demonstrations across Catalan would happen here in Kenya, I think there would have been massive loss of life. And it is upon us as a country to find ways to be able to communicate, as Professor Midamba is saying, to our students peacefully, to other Kenyans peacefully, to the authorities peacefully, and build this country.
All right, let's hear from Captain Werunga.
I think one is the students being beaten were in the halls of residences and they were in the classroom, not on the roads stoning people. Yes, we know acts of stoning cars and stealing happened on our roads, but those that we saw being clobbered were actually inside the university compound. And our training as security people is meant to allow you to use reasonable force, although reasonable is relative, but you are supposed and you are trained to use reasonable force to subdue. The word here is called subdue. What we saw, whether fake or real, what we know, we saw many pictures of students bleeding, others, the bandages. Whether it is one or two students, I think that is wrong. It's against the law. So the issue is not whether Kenyans are supposed to know how to deal with the police. The police are trained to deal with all manner of activities. They are trained to deal with criminals, they are trained to deal with mobs, they are trained to deal with hostile crowds, they are trained to crowd disperse. All these things are part of their training. Debarl, when you look at this constitution, section 244, and you look at the objects and functions of the national police, they broke all of them, and there are about 6. So how do you then justify the fact that we can sit here and try to blame Kenyans that we should also know, and that's why I'm disagreeing with Mustafa here. There's a difference between an institution that is trained to deal with certain things and a mob of students that are acting at each other. And therefore, the institution that has been trained to deal with this matter is incumbent upon itself within the law to use the powers and the privileges given with the law to deal with the students the way they are trained. And therefore, we cannot, and I will never, for as long as I sit in this country, ever try to compare students and the police. That is completely out of the question, Debarl. And it is wrong for the media to censor the pictures, because sometimes when you send a picture, the reaction that will give to the Kenyan people will also assist in how the police will behave in the future. This country, you media people, of late we are seeing very strange things. You decide what we need to see, you decide what we need to read. And yet sometimes you must determine as a media, if I splash this photo, what will be the impact? And I still remember during the Westgate, was it Westgate or something, where the Nation newspaper splashed a woman, front page, that had serious things over her face and whatever. I can't remember whether it was Westgate or something, but I remember the picture. We hear there were internal issues around here. But what was the impact of that picture to the Kenyan psyche? It changed the way we think, it changed the way we behave, and it brought us together to start thinking as a nation. So sometimes I don't think it is right for you as a media to be determining and censoring what we need to do, because what we hear, and some of us, okay, I don't have a child in Nairobi University, some of us are friends who have children. And when you hear what they tell their parents, you'll be shocked with our police force. And sometimes I sit here and I protect them. I talk on their behalf. But when they do wrong things the way they did this time, I think it's incumbent upon us as a nation to say it is not right. The other day I watched the Inspector General talking to Linus KK, and he did not answer a single question he was asked. Not a single question. And this is a person we need to look at and say, yes, you have 80,000 police officers under you. You cannot be everywhere with them, but you need to take responsibility. And the simplest way the Inspector General should have said, we've seen the clips, our systems are working. When I get the report, I'll get back to Kenyans and tell them our stand as a national police service. You cannot defend the indefensible. You cannot. And the Debarl, it is wrong, it is outrageous, it is incorrigible for us to imagine that we can sit here and talk about police clobbering our children. Then we start blaming ourselves that we also need to know what we need to do. It's not right. And when you look at the essence of this constitution, look at what it talks about, the objects and functions of the national police, then actualized by a legislative act from the National Assembly, then you need to understand that those who worked through this, and some of us were part of this, that's why we were very annoyed, because when we were looking at transforming the Kenya police force into a police service, we know we've had obstacles along the way.
Thank you.
Either denial by the services themselves or the politicians making sure that they don't behave the way the Kenyan people want. So therefore, as a nation, I think we must condemn what we saw.
All right.
Yeah.
When we came back, of course, we'll continue with that discussion and wind up on what is happening also in Uganda and look also panoramically on what is happening elsewhere in the world. Las Vegas shooting, Iran, US nuclear deal as well. And of course, North Korea also has been fixated on our media as well. That will be, of course, also our focus on the other side of a break. So don't go away, much more coming up on the other side of a break. You're watching Standing on Guard here on AM Live. Welcome back. You're watching Standing on Guard here on AM Live, running on Decision 2017. I'm holding court this morning with Professor Noah Midamba, who is an expert on defense and foreign policy. Also, we do have with us His Excellency Dr. Hadi Farajvand, who is the Ambassador of Islamic Republic of Iran to the Republic of Kenya. We do have with us Dr. Oliver Kisaka, who is a chaplain and a lecturer at African International University. Also, Dr. Mustafa Yusuf Ali, who is an expert on conflict resolution and national security. Also, we do have with us Captain Werunga Simiyu, who is the CEO of the African Center for Security Studies and Strategy. We continue our pace with the conversation on police brutality. Yesterday, also, Gado aptly captured this particular scenario by drawing this particular editorial cartoon that was in the Standard yesterday. And this is how it looks for you. We see the Inspector General in the boots, that is the boots on the ground, and we can see him saying, I think you have to understand the context of how we got there. And behind there we can see the bludgeoning of police beating university students or a student there. And we have the small rod saying, more importantly, the context of how you got up there. That is the question. So looking at this particular editorial cartoon, well, let's begin with you, Professor Noah Midamba. Do you think the shoes, they're too big for the Inspector General of Police?
I don't know about that, Debarl. The question is, if a similar thing had happened in Japan or South Korea, by now somebody will resign. Mm-hmm. And that is the message Kenya needs to accept, because these are our police. We are the one paying for them. Mm-hmm. We are today in 2017, we are in a different place. And somebody ought to answer. Somebody ought to be accountable for what happened.
Mm-hmm. All right. Let's talk to Dr. Oliver Kisaka.
Debarl, I think the Inspector General of Police needs to know that his office demands of him certain fundamentals. One of them is that he must be the image of the Kenyan police. He should be demonstrating a capacity to understand what policing is and how policing should be managed. He should be the one setting the pace for all the rest of the policemen. When you see a cartoon has put him not even in two boots, in one boot, and he cannot fit there, he should really think about what Kenyans are saying about him.
Mm-hmm. All right, even looking at that particular interview that we had him with Linus Kekai here in the studio, do you think maybe he should have sent the police spokesperson and he would have done a better job than him? Because he didn't answer any question, and of course the interviewer tried to wrinkle out information out of him and nothing really came forth. Maybe he should have said a press statement instead of coming to the studio. What do you think, Dr. Mustafa?
Yeah. Debarl, I think that I leave to the public to judge. Let me not talk about the Inspector General of Police performance at an interview
here.
I wanted to let me talk about the image of the police, that particular cartoon there. Well, cartoons tend to generally convey certain messages and oversimplify issues. We have a problem with the police in this country. That is the bottom line. And that the way the police respond to demonstrations should be looked into, and there is always the use of force that is not commensurate with the violence, if at all the students or Kenyans are throwing stones at police. That is something that the police will have to deal with. And of course, the issue of training of the police, I said earlier, it is inexcusable. It is actually disgusting to see the students being beaten in the manner that they were being beaten at their halls of residence.
Mm-hmm. All right. So you're actually skirting around the issue. You don't want to really comment on that, yeah?
I am not, Debarl, I'm not skirting around the issue. I'm saying that...
That you said before.
Which one?
That you are really condemning the beatings. We've heard from that, yeah?
No, and that we all have to, Debarl. That we all have to. I'm refraining from commenting on an interview that I saw on television.
No, you're commenting on the boots and the police, yes.
No, I'm saying the image of the police, and that clearly shows the image of the police, that the police have got to look into the way they are organized, the way they respond to issues, the way they investigate, you know, the corruption that is there in the police. These are issues that are really putting down the police force.
All right, thank you.
And this is something that they have to deal with.
All right. Captain Werunga, you're laughing.
I like the way Mustafa talks.
Werunga just disagreed with me. And I'm trying, I asked you, what did you disagree with? I said, there is no point to probe students the way they were probed. That is uncalled for. But also Kenyans should learn that we should not be throwing stones when we are going for peaceful demonstrations. This creates conflict and this creates problems.
Okay.
If we need to help to contribute to the success of the Inspector General, I think we need to give him honest feedback. Yes. On that particular interview, he did not come out as honest. He did not come out as telling us that he's in charge of the situation. He gave us the impression he hasn't actually understood the issue. I'm giving him an honest feedback, and if he wants to improve the image that he's projecting to the nation, he must work on that.
He must work on that.
I think.
Yes.
Okay. Professor, you want to say something?
No, I will have to.
Yeah, the thing is this, Debarl. We have nothing personal. I mean, who are we to have anything personal against an Inspector General of Police? But we are also entitled to opinions as Kenyans who have worked very closely with the police service. That cartoon speaks volumes about what people think Mr. Boinnet is in the police service. But this is my advice I want to tell Mr. Boinnet. Free. You can take it or not take it. Sometimes it's good to delegate, so that whoever speaks, when the flag comes, is the last person to defend the image of the police. You see, right now we are talking about Boinnet, and he's the last person. Nobody else from the police service can come and defend him. Or nobody else from the police service can come and say anything contrary to what he said. So sometimes it's good, yes, you want to come out and project what you want to say, but sometimes it's good when you are the final, where the buck stops at. So send your people with your message. Let them speak. If the flag comes out, then you'll be the last person to speak about your own service. Therefore, my pick on that interview, I mean that cartoon, is that the impression he has given to the Kenyan people is that he doesn't fit into those boots. But I wish he was holding back, giving instructions, delegating some of these things, so that when it hits the road, then it is him who will be the final person, after understanding the context, like he was saying, in which Kenyans are viewing the actions of the police. Then he'll come out and say, I know my officers have said ABCD, but this is the stand of the National Police Service. To me, that's how we should be doing these things. Because at the end of the day, he said nothing. Kenyans were left to the interview very frustrated. The parents of those students were very frustrated. And I know majority of police officers, Debarl, and I speak because I know, are not happy with what some of their colleagues are doing. And therefore, when the Inspector General comes to speak and is the final person in that service, then it leaves no room for anybody to come and explain further what should have explained to the Kenyans, because he took himself to the interview instead of delegating.
All right, let's wind up on it with Professor Noah Midamba. Very briefly, please.
They are good people in the police force who understand the fundamental of law enforcement, who understand the fundamental of communication. But there are also bad elements in the police. And what we need to do, the bottom line, is we have taken pictures of those people. Let's hold them to court, prosecute them, and remove them out of police force so they can do something else with their life. We cannot, as a country, right now, accept this kind of people in our law enforcement agency.
Thank you very much.